It begins with a whisper in the backstreets of Manchester. A boy just 17 years old, controlling a drug empire worth millions. By the time police uncovered the scale of his operation, he wasn't just a teenager skipping school. He was Britain's youngest and most dangerous drug kingpin. But how does a child become a crime lord? And how did the people around him never see it coming? Until it was far too late. His name was Liam Thompson. To most, he looked like any other teenager. Tall, a mop of dark hair, always in hoodies and trainers. He had a quick wit, a crooked smile, and a love for football. His teachers remembered him as clever, but restless. His mother described him as a boy who still liked pizza nights and video games. At just 17, Liam should have been sitting exams, planning nights out with friends, maybe dreaming of university. But those dreams never came. Behind the easy grin was a restless ambition. Liam wasn't content with pocket money or part-time jobs. He wanted more, and the streets offered him exactly that. Started small. At 14, he was running errands for older boys in his estate. Packet here, a message there. By 15, he was moving cannabis between houses, stuffing bags into his school backpack before heading to class. His classmates thought he was bold. Teachers thought he was distracted. But Liam wasn't just another kid hustling for trainers. He was taking notes, studying the business, watching how older dealers failed, learning where police were weak. By 16, he wasn't following orders anymore. He was giving them. Liam created a network that shocked detectives. He used social media, Snapchat and Instagram, to advertise drugs like sweets. Orders were placed online. Drop-offs were arranged in broad daylight. He recruited classmates, younger kids who looked harmless. He called them runners. They called him boss. The money flowed fast, thousands of pounds every week. He swapped his old trainers for designer ones. He bought watches, phones, even a second-hand BMW, though he wasn't old enough to drive it legally. But the real power wasn't the money. It was fear. By 17, Liam ruled entire blocks. If you crossed him, you didn't just risk losing business. You risked disappearing. It wasn't long before the violence began. In the winter of 2019, a 19-year-old named Jordan Hughes was found beaten in an alleyway. He'd been part of Liam's crew, a runner who decided he wanted out. He wanted to go back to college, to leave the streets behind. Liam couldn't allow that. He sent a message the only way he knew how. Jordan survived, but barely. His jaw was broken in 2 places. He refused to speak to police. Fear sealed his lips. And Liam's reputation grew. Detective Inspector Sarah Morgan still remembers the case. She had worked gang crimes for over a decade, but something about these assaults didn't fit the usual pattern. The attackers weren't hardened men. They were children. When police tried to track the drugs flooding into Manchester, the same name kept circling back. Liam. No surname, no details, just whispers on the street. Detectives couldn't believe it. Could the city's biggest new dealer really be a teenager? The more police pushed, the more the truth surfaced. Liam had built his empire on loyalty, or what looked like loyalty. He paid his crew better than older dealers. He protected them. To kids from broken homes, he was more than a boss. He was family. But loyalty had a darker side. Anyone who betrayed him faced ruthless consequences. One boy, just 15, was caught skimming money from sales. Days later, he was found with his hand smashed by a hammer. Police suspected Liam, but no one dared testify. By early 2020, Detective Morgan's team had undercover officers watching schools, playgrounds, even fast food restaurants. Everywhere they looked, Liam's shadow loomed. But he was careful. He never touched the drugs himself. He never carried cash. He used encrypted phones, kept his meetings short, and always had someone else do the dirty work. It was brilliant. It was terrifying. And it made him almost untouchable. Then came the mistake. A 16-year-old runner was stopped with a backpack filled with cocaine worth 30,000 pounds. Under questioning, the boy broke. He didn't name Liam directly, but he described a boss who fit the profile perfectly. A boy who never went by his surname, but whose word was law. For the first time, detectives had a thread to pull. When police raided a flat Liam was using, what they found stunned even seasoned officers. Stacks of cash, nearly £400,000 in bundles. Designer clothes, watches, and luxury items. A wall covered in notes, arrows, and phone numbers. A business map written like a CEO's plan. But the most shocking find was a ledger. Neatly written, every sale recorded. Every runner's name, every payment tracked. It wasn't chaos. It was a corporation, and its CEO was just 17 years old. The raid should have been the end. But Liam wasn't finished. Even after his arrest, messages went out from his phone. Orders still flowed. Runners kept working. It was as if he had prepared for this moment, knowing one day the police would come. Detective Morgan realized they weren't just fighting a boy. They were fighting an organization. In court, Liam sat like he didn't belong there. Clean haircut, sharp suit, eyes cold. Prosecutors painted him as a mastermind. The press called him Britain's teen drug lord. But his defense was simple. He's just a boy. How could a child run an empire? The jury didn't buy it. He was sentenced to years behind bars. But prison walls don't always end an empire. Even inside, Liam's influence lingered. The story of Liam Thompson isn't just about one boy. It's about a system where children become soldiers, where loyalty is bought, fear is currency, and ambition consumes innocence. How does a child with dreams of football become a kingpin worth millions? And if Liam did it at 17, how many others are waiting to take his place? Because here's the part they don't tell you. Months after Liam's conviction, detectives intercepted new messages, orders being given, money being moved, and the sender? Someone using Liam's old encrypted accounts. Had he built a replacement before prison? Or was Liam still running the empire from behind bars? The truth is even darker than anyone imagined. Even behind locked doors, Britain's youngest drug kingpin never stopped ruling the streets. Shocking prison detail, Liam ordering beatings, cash transfers, and drug shipments while locked in his cell. At 17, he enters a youth offender institution, then later transferred to adult prison. Instead of breaking him, prison gives him new contacts. Older gang leaders, corrupt guards, smuggling routes. Liam thrives. His reputation makes him untouchable inside. Police thought his conviction would collapse the empire. Instead, Liam had already appointed lieutenants. Rival gangs test the vacuum. Turf wars erupt. A violence escalates in Manchester. Shootings, stabbings, homes burned. DI Sarah Morgan notices familiar patterns. Drug supply unchanged, even increased. Runners still loyal to Liam. They intercept encrypted messages, same style, same codes. But if Liam is locked away, how is he still giving orders? Investigators discover phones smuggled into prison, but Liam is too clever. He rotates devices, never keeps one long. The messages sent through dead drop accounts controlled by outsiders. Some evidence points to a corrupt guard helping him. Shocking betrayal revealed. One of Liam's closest lieutenants is caught, but instead of flipping on Liam, he claims someone else is running things now. Suggests Liam created a shadow boss, a childhood friend acting as his proxy. Detectives suspect Liam is orchestrating everything through him. Violence worsens. One teenager executed in broad daylight, meant as a warning. Detectives realize it's not just about drugs anymore. Liam is building a legend. Kids on the streets idolize him. His empire has become a movement. In a dramatic raid, police discover a second ledger, a continuation of Liam's first business plan. It reveals hidden offshore accounts and links to adult cartels. Liam wasn't just playing gangster. He was learning to become a crime lord on an international scale. The police moved to isolate Liam completely. Solitary confinement, no contact. But weeks later, another encrypted message surfaces. Same codes, same style, same chilling phrase Liam always used. The boss decides. Was it Liam, or had someone else taken his place? Detectives realize the unthinkable. Maybe Liam's empire was never just his. Maybe he was part of something bigger. It should have ended with the clang of a prison door. Britain's youngest drug boss, just 17 years old, finally brought to justice. Locked away, silenced, finished. But that wasn't what happened. Because for Liam Thompson, prison wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far darker. When Liam was sentenced, the courtroom expected relief. His rivals thought his empire would collapse. Detectives believed the streets of Manchester would finally breathe again. They were all wrong. At first, Liam was sent to a youth offender institution, a place meant to reform, to rehabilitate. Instead, it became his training ground. Older gang leaders were waiting, men who had ruled their estates before him. Instead of shunning the boy, they admired him. His reputation had reached even the prison walls. The teenager who had run an empire, who kept perfect records, who had turned fear into profit. They whispered his name like he was a prodigy, a child genius of crime. And Liam thrived. Inside, he wasn't just another inmate. He was a king. He had respect, protection, and most dangerously, new contacts. Outside prison, the police thought Liam's fall would leave a vacuum. But a vacuum never stays empty for long. In the months after his sentencing, Manchester streets grew even bloodier. Liam's runners didn't scatter. They stayed loyal. Orders still came through encrypted phones. Meetups still happened. Cash still flowed. It was as if Liam had never left. And rival gangs took notice. Some tried to move in to claim his territory. The result was war. Drive-by shootings, stabbings outside schools, houses set on fire in the middle of the night. The violence wasn't just about drugs anymore. It was about loyalty, about proving that even in a cell, Liam was still the boss. Detective Inspector Sarah Morgan had thought her work was finished when Liam was convicted. But then she noticed something disturbing. Drug supply levels hadn't fallen. If anything, they had grown. The same codes, the same delivery patterns, the same meticulous records. It was like Liam was still running the show. But how? When police intercepted encrypted messages, the style was unmistakable. Same phrases, same clipped tone. One line chilled Morgan more than any other. The boss decides. It was the same phrase Liam had always used. A signature, a warning. If Liam was behind bars, who was writing those words? Prison officers began random searches of Liam's cell. They found nothing. No phones, no notes, nothing to prove he was still running an empire. But detectives knew better. Whispers from the inside told a different story. Phones were smuggled in, sometimes in food deliveries, sometimes hidden in laundry. A corrupt guard was suspected of turning a blind eye or worse, helping directly. Liam was clever. He never kept a phone long enough to be caught. He rotated devices, passing them off to other inmates, hiding them in walls or toilets. But the messages continued. And every time detectives thought they had shut him down, new ones appeared. On the streets, Liam's empire wasn't crumbling. It was adapting. Before his arrest, Liam had already appointed lieutenants. Boys only a year or two younger, but fiercely loyal. They were his eyes and ears outside, his enforcers, his replacements. One of them, 16-year-old Tyler Reed, became especially feared. He mimicked Liam's cold, detached style. He beat a rival dealer unconscious in broad daylight, then told witnesses, "The boss says the street is his." The legend of Liam grew stronger. He wasn't just a teenager in prison anymore. He was becoming a myth. Detectives tried to break the chain of command. They arrested runners, lieutenants, even girlfriends suspected of carrying messages. But fear sealed every mouth. No one would speak against Liam. Even from a cell, his reach was long. Even from a cell, he could punish. One 15-year-old boy arrested with cocaine finally broke down in interrogation. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "I can't say his name. If I do, I'm dead." Then came the breakthrough. In a raid on a safe house, police found another ledger. This one wasn't Liam's handwriting. It belonged to Tyler Reed. But inside were chilling notes. Orders signed not with a name, but with a code, LT. Payments to prison accounts. Instructions for violent hits. Detectives realized Liam wasn't just communicating from inside. He was running everything through Tyler. The shadow boss. The proxy. It was Liam's empire with someone else's face. The streets grew darker. In the summer of 2021, a teenager was executed in broad daylight, shot in the head outside a corner shop. The victim had been suspected of trying to leave Liam's crew. No one doubted who ordered it. The police knew, the streets knew, but still no one would testify. Detective Morgan felt helpless. Every time she thought she had trapped Liam, he slipped through the cracks. It was like playing chess against a ghost. And worst of all, Liam wasn't just selling drugs anymore. He was selling legend. Kids whispered his name like a hero. To them, Liam was proof that you didn't need school, didn't need jobs. All you needed was loyalty and fear, and you could rule. In late 2021, detectives staged their most ambitious raid yet. Dozens of officers stormed multiple properties linked to Liam's crew. What they found shocked even seasoned investigators. Hidden in the walls of one flat was a folder. Inside, a second business plan, detailed notes, organized contacts, and this time international links. Phone numbers traced back to suppliers in Spain. Bank transfers to offshore accounts in the Caribbean. Liam hadn't just been thinking like a street boss. He had been thinking like a cartel leader. This wasn't the dream of a teenager anymore. It was the blueprint of a man preparing for global power. Police moved quickly. They requested Liam be placed in solitary confinement. No contact with other inmates. No phones. No visitors. For a few weeks, the streets quieted. Detectives hoped it was over. But then the messages started again. Same codes. Same clipped style. Same chilling phrase. The boss decides. For Detective Morgan, the realization was crushing. She had spent years chasing Liam, convinced that locking him away would end his reign. But the truth was more terrifying. Liam's empire wasn't just one boy. It was bigger than him, bigger than prison walls, bigger than anything the police had imagined. And Liam? He wasn't fading. He was evolving. Because here's the unthinkable truth. When detectives traced the offshore accounts, they discovered transactions far larger than Liam's operation could explain. Money flowing from sources that didn't belong to a teenage empire. The numbers matched cartel activity, international syndicates, global crime families, and buried in the records, one line stood out. Partnership confirmed. UK distribution secured. Was Liam just a teenage mastermind? Or had he been recruited? A front for something far bigger? As detectives stared at the evidence, one question chilled them more than any other. If Liam was only the beginning, who or what was really pulling the strings? It should have been over. A 17-year-old boy turned kingpin, locked away, his empire shattered, his runners scattered. But then came the money. Police tracking Liam Thompson's accounts uncovered something they hadn't expected. Transfers. Not small, not local. International payments. Hundreds of thousands of pounds flowing through offshore banks. Far beyond the reach of a teenager, even a teenage kingpin. And in those ledgers, one phrase repeated over and over. Partnership confirmed. UK distribution secured. The nightmare wasn't ending. It was just beginning. Detective Inspector Sarah Morgan sat in the incident room, staring at the numbers. She had chased Liam for years. She thought she understood him. But these accounts told a different story. Liam wasn't just a boy running Manchester. He was part of something bigger. The numbers matched known cartel operations. Spain, the Netherlands, South America, networks that fed Europe's cocaine supply, worth billions. Had Liam been their partner all along? Or had he been their pawn? Started with a phone call. An encrypted number traced back to Marbella, Spain. A voice, calm and accented, asking one chilling question. Is the boy still in charge? Detectives realized Liam wasn't just in contact with British gangs. He had reached across borders. Even behind bars, his name carried weight. And the cartels were listening. Prison officials thought solitary confinement would break him. No phones, no visitors, no contact. But Liam adapted. When one path closed, he found another. He used coded letters disguised as school essays. He passed messages through other inmates released back onto the streets. He even arranged payments to guards' families outside prison, buying silence and protection. Instead of shrinking, his legend grew. "He's untouchable," inmates whispered. "He's bigger than the prison." And the cartels? They admired it. While Liam sat in his cell, the streets of Manchester turned into a battlefield. Two rival gangs tried to muscle in on Liam's empire. The response was swift, brutal, and precise. One gang leader was stabbed outside a nightclub. 23 wounds, no witnesses. Another's house was burned with his family still inside. They barely escaped. The message was clear. Liam might be locked away, but he was still in control. The cartels had found their perfect partner. A boy who could inspire loyalty, fear, and violence without ever touching the streets. Through intelligence leaks, detectives pieced together fragments of the deal. Liam had offered the cartels what no adult dealer could: invisibility. Who would suspect a teenager of running Europe's supply lines? In return, the cartels offered him protection, money, and most importantly, legitimacy. They weren't just letting him sell drugs. They were grooming him to be their man in Britain. And Liam was ready. For D.I. Morgan, it was like chasing smoke. Every time she moved on Liam, the trail led abroad. Every time she tried to trap his runners, new ones appeared. Her team faced intimidation. One officer's car was torched. Another found threatening letters shoved through his door. Morgan herself began receiving anonymous calls, just breathing on the other end. Then a single phrase: "The boss decides." The turning point came when police finally flipped one of Liam's lieutenants. A boy named Kieran, barely 16, arrested with half a kilo of cocaine. At first, he refused to talk, but days in custody wore him down. Tears ran down his face as he whispered the truth. Liam wasn't just sending orders from prison. He was planning his release. The cartels had promised him a future: training, contacts, power beyond Britain. And Kieran's role? To keep the streets warm until Liam came back. But Kieran revealed something worse. There was a second boss. A man no one in Manchester had ever seen. The cartel's direct contact in the UK. The one pulling Liam's strings. Violence spiraled. Teenagers armed with machetes patrolled estates. A 14-year-old boy was found executed in Woodland, a suspected informant. Fear gripped Manchester. No one spoke Liam's name aloud anymore. He had become a ghost, a symbol, and detectives began to wonder, was this still Liam's empire, or had the cartels fully taken over? In 2022, Europol staged a massive operation. Dozens of raids across Spain, the Netherlands, and Britain. Millions in cash seized. Weapons, drugs, phones, all linked to the same network. And buried in the evidence, a video. It showed a boy in a prison tracksuit, sitting at a table, speaking calmly to a man whose face was blurred. The boy was Liam, and his words were chilling. The boss decides. Always. By then, Liam was no longer just a teenager who had outsmarted police. He was a legend. Children in schools whispered his name. Some wore his initials on their trainers. To them, he wasn't a criminal. He was an idol. And the cartels? They couldn't have asked for better. A boy who inspired fear. A boy who inspired loyalty. A boy who could make violence look like destiny. Detectives pushed for Liam to be cut off completely. No phones, no letters, no visitors. Locked in silence. But then, weeks later, an encrypted message surfaced. Same codes. Same clipped style. Same phrase. The boss decides. Morgan was sure it was Liam, until forensics proved otherwise. The device hadn't been used in prison. It had been used in London, by someone else. Had the cartels replaced him? Or had Liam built a successor before he was even locked away? The story of Liam Thompson is more than the tale of a teenage kingpin. It's a warning that crime doesn't wait for adulthood, that ambition doesn't need age, and that sometimes the most dangerous leaders are the ones no one sees coming. For Manchester, Liam's reign left scars that may never heal. For detectives, it was a reminder that every time they thought they'd cut off the head of the snake, another one appeared. But for the cartels, Liam was proof of something chilling. That the perfect criminal might not be a hardened man. It might be a child. Because the truth is, Liam's story doesn't end here. The money still flows, the violence still spreads, and the phrase still echoes on the streets of Britain. The boss decides. Detectives believe Liam may one day walk free. And if he does, will he return as Britain's drug lord? Or as Europe's next cartel king? The answer is still out there. It should have ended with prison walls. It should have ended with solitary confinement, silence, and the collapse of an empire. But Liam Thompson's story was never about endings. It was about evolution. Because while one boy sat in a concrete box, his name was moving across the world. And names, unlike bodies, cannot be locked away. The first sighting came in Amsterdam. Posters appeared in a nightclub known for cartel connections. A teenager's face, smirking, crown drawn crudely above his head. Underneath, 3 words: "The Boss Lives." It was Liam, a 17-year-old from Manchester, now a global symbol for a new generation of crime. But how did his name cross borders? And who was really pulling the strings? Detectives across Europe began to see the same thing. Encrypted apps filled with videos of Liam. Clips from courtrooms, photos from his arrest, grainy images smuggled out of prison. Teenagers in Paris, Berlin, even Naples shared his story. They weren't horrified. They were inspired. To them, Liam was proof that power didn't wait for age. That a kid could beat the system, outsmart the police, and command fear from a cell. The cartels had found their new weapon. Not just drugs, not just violence, but myth. By 2023, intelligence reports confirmed it. A new alliance had formed. Spanish cartels, Dutch syndicates, and British crews all connected. And at the heart of their recruitment campaigns was Liam's legend. Street kids were shown his story like a fable. Look at him, they were told. He was your age. He became boss. Why not you? And with every new recruit, the empire spread. Back home, Manchester bled. Detective Inspector Sarah Morgan walked through neighborhoods where Liam's initials were scrawled on walls. Teenagers as young as 12 carried machetes. Mothers begged police to protect their children from recruitment. But the most terrifying truth? Many didn't want protection. They wanted to join. They wanted to be the next Liam. And then came whispers of a figure known only as the Shadow. Not Liam. Not Tyler Reed, his old lieutenant. But someone else, older, hidden. The one the cartels used to keep Liam's empire alive. Detectives believed the Shadow coordinated shipments, ordered hits, managed the accounts Liam could no longer touch. And yet, every decision still ended with the same phrase. The boss decides. Was it Liam giving orders from isolation? Or was his name being used as a mask for something much bigger? By mid-2023, Europol and Interpol were fully engaged. Task forces formed across 3 countries. Meetings stretched late into the night. And every time Liam's name appeared on intelligence reports, the same question echoed through the room. How did a boy from Manchester become the face of a cartel movement? On the ground, detectives saw the empire mutating. In London, a 15-year-old girl was arrested with half a kilo of cocaine. In Liverpool, a 13-year-old boy carried a Glock for older dealers. In Birmingham, entire playgrounds became recruitment zones. And in every interrogation, one name surfaced. One idol. One legend. Liam. Meanwhile, inside prison, Liam remained untouchable. Guards reported his silence, his calm, his eerie confidence. He never raised his voice. He never showed fear. One guard swore Liam smiled when news of the cartel raids reached him, as if he knew something no one else did. And then came the note. Hidden in a book, passed to another inmate, smuggled out to the streets. 5 words, scrawled in perfect handwriting. The boss decides. Always. For D.I. Morgan, it was a nightmare without end. She had arrested him. She had watched him sentenced. She had fought to silence him. And yet here he was, larger than ever. A ghost haunting not just Manchester, but Europe. Morgan began to question everything. Had they created this legend by chasing him so hard? Had the trial, the headlines, the teen kingpin label given him the myth the cartels needed? The more she fought him, the bigger he grew. By late 2023, the truth was undeniable. Liam's name wasn't just in Manchester anymore. It was in Spain, in the Netherlands, in ports in Belgium, where cocaine shipments arrived by the ton. The cartels had taken his story and weaponized it. Liam was no longer just a boy. He was a brand, a banner under which thousands of children marched. And the question was no longer how to stop him, but whether he could ever be stopped at all. Then, in early 2024, a breakthrough. A raid in Rotterdam uncovered encrypted communications between cartel leaders. One message, translated into English, froze investigators in place. The boy is useful. The name inspires. But when he falls, another will rise. The brand is stronger than the child. For detectives, it was devastating. The cartels had never needed Liam himself. They only needed his legend. And that legend could outlive him forever. The story of Liam Thompson had begun as the rise of a boy too ambitious for his age. But it had become something else. Something unstoppable. Because once a name becomes myth, it can't be jailed. Once a story becomes legend, it can't be silenced. And Liam's story, the boy who beat the system, who ruled from a cell, who defied the police, had become the most powerful recruitment tool the cartels had ever owned. In the summer of 2024, a new message appeared on encrypted apps across Europe. A video, grainy, blurred, but the face was unmistakable. Liam Thompson, smiling, speaking just 3 words. The boss decides. Detectives scrambled. How had a video left his cell? Was it smuggled? Was it staged? Or, the unthinkable, had Liam already secured his release? The empire was no longer Britain's problem. It was global. And as one investigator whispered after watching the video, if a 17-year-old boy can rise to this, what happens when he comes out a man? It began with a boy, a 17-year-old in a hoodie, standing on a Manchester street corner, dreaming of power. It grew into an empire. Runners, lieutenants, millions in cash. It spread into a prison cell where walls meant nothing, where phones and proxies kept the empire alive. It stretched into Europe, tied to cartels who saw a child not as a weakness, but as the perfect disguise. And now it refuses to die, because Liam Thompson is no longer a boy, no longer a prisoner, no longer even a man. He is a legend, and legends are immortal. By early 2025, whispers began spreading. Liam's time was coming. His sentence, reduced for age and behavior, was almost over. Detective Inspector Sarah Morgan felt a dread she couldn't put into words. She had chased him for years. She had watched him rise, fall, and rise again from a cell. But the thought of him walking free, that terrified her more than anything. Because if Liam had built an empire from prison, what would he do with freedom? On Manchester's estates, murals appeared overnight. Liam's face, crowned, painted 10 feet tall. The boss returns. Runners trained for his release. Older lieutenants whispered about territory expansions. Even rival gangs grew silent, waiting. The city wasn't bracing for a boy. It was bracing for a king. Across Europe, cartel leaders tracked the date too. To them, Liam wasn't just a partner. He was a brand. And now their brand was about to walk free. Meetings were held in Spain, in the Netherlands, in South America. Plans drafted. Supply chains mapped. The moment Liam left prison, he wouldn't just return to Manchester. He would inherit Europe. For Morgan, it was unbearable. She begged officials to extend his isolation. She petitioned for monitoring, restrictions, anything to slow him down. But the law was clear. He had served his sentence. He was to be released, and there was nothing she could do. The gates clanged open. Car waited outside. Reporters pressed for photos, but Liam didn't smile. He stepped out, older now, sharper. His dark hair cropped, his face leaner, his eyes colder. At 17, he had been called a boy boss. Now, in his 20s, he looked like what he had always been becoming. A man built for power. Within days, sightings spread. Liam in Manchester. Liam in London. Liam in Spain. Always surrounded by shadows. Always protected. And everywhere he went, the phrase returned. The boss decides. Orders began again. Territories shifted. violence flared. But this time it wasn't just Manchester. It was Britain. It was Europe. Rival gangs tried to challenge him. They didn't last long. A leader in Birmingham shot dead in broad daylight. A crew in Liverpool burned alive in their own hideout. Every move against Liam was answered with brutality. The message was clear. The boss was back. Detectives tried one last desperate strategy. International cooperation. Wiretaps. Stings. A plan to catch Liam not as a teenager, but as a cartel partner. For months, they tracked his movements. Meetings in safe houses. Encrypted calls to Spain. Money moving through shell accounts. And then, finally, they had him. Or so they thought. In late 2025, armed officers stormed a warehouse outside Manchester. Inside, they found cocaine worth millions. Guns. Cash. But no Liam. What they did find was worse. On the walls, posters. Dozens of them. Liam's face, smiling, crowned. And beneath, one phrase, "The boss lives." The warehouse wasn't a hideout. It was a recruitment hub. Children as young as 12 caught inside, training to be runners. All chanting his name. The same night, Liam vanished. No sightings. No communications. No trace. Some say he fled to Spain. Others whisper he was taken deeper into cartel protection. And some believe the unthinkable, that Liam staged his disappearance, leaving his legend to rule without him. Because the truth was chilling. The empire no longer needed Liam. The myth was enough. The story of Liam Thompson isn't about one boy. It's about a system where children become soldiers, where fear is currency, where loyalty outlives death. He began as a restless teenager. He became Britain's youngest drug boss. He grew into a cartel partner. And in the end, he became something more dangerous than any man. He became a story, a legend, a legacy of fear. In the months after his disappearance, detectives still tracked shipments, still found weapons, still saw children recruited in his name. And every encrypted message, every whispered threat, carried the same phrase. The boss decides. But there was no boss anymore. Only a shadow. Only a myth. Only a legacy too powerful to kill. And that is how a 17-year-old boy didn't just become Britain's biggest drug boss. He became something far worse. A ghost. A story. A legend no prison, no raid, no bullet could ever silence.